And so then we'd stay at her house.
Because you went to public school, because that's all there was.
And this was Catholic, and she lived right down the street from the Catholic school. And so we would go and stay there and go to catechism classes so we could make our first communion.
Right.
And Uncle Leo's kids would do it the same. So Margaret and Louis and Dorothy and Jim, the four of us, would go and stay with Grandma. And all of us made our first communion at the same time.
So you were staying at Grandma's house and
go to catechism.
How long was that class?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. I see.
And we only went in during the week, and then we'd go home for the Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday. Poor Grandma had to put up with the four of us. But I didn't remember being anything but a very good girl for her.
Sure.
But we probably weren't. But anyway, she had this kitchen, and the dining room she never really used as the dining room, but she had one. And then
was Billy alive at that time?
Then a living room and a kitchen, and upstairs with 2 bedrooms.
Was Billy alive at that time or no?
No, Billy
had died already.
Well, maybe he was alive. But let's see, he died when I was. I don't remember that. I don't remember Billy as a baby.
Was he older than you?
The only thing I remember.
Was he younger than you and older?
The only thing I remember about Billy is him being very sick. See, he died 1.5 years old.
Oh, he was only 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, was he younger than you or older than you?
Yes, he had sore throat. He had strep throat.
Oh.
That's what scared me when you said he had strep throat.
Yeah.
He died of strep throat.
Oh my goodness.
And of course we didn't have hospitals then.
Sure.
And there was a nurse in town, a woman that did nursing, and she came out and stayed with us when Billy was sick and helped Mom with Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like her because she didn't hang up the diapers just right on the line.
Oh, wow.
I can remember that.
That's interesting.
Then I don't remember other things.
That's very interesting.
It's crazy.
No, that's interesting.
Oh, anyway, I'm sorry I got you started.
No, that's wonderful, Mom. That's wonderful.
Why am I remembering it?
Well, that's just great. Nobody else can remember this, Mom, and it's just wonderful. What else can you know about that? That's just so wonderful to hear that.
Well, you know what Janet got me when she come to see me last week, one day. That's Janet, you know who she is.
Sure.
She's the oldest one of Jim's kids.
Sure.
And she was asking me about Mount Evil and some of the things. And so when where her dad
Right.
and my mom, where they were born, she was asking me about all that.
Sure.
And so that started me remembering some of this stuff.
What did you tell her?
Well, it was this little old farmhouse. Our farm was here, and we went up, and then a mile over, and that's where the other little farm was that Mom and Dad rented when they got married. Grandpa rented that place. I remember Dad saying that his dad rented that place for him. Probably with some of his friends that he knew, I don't know. But they had only a two-room or three-room house. And I can remember my dad coming in that door as a little girl. Weird to think.
You remember your dad at that house?
What?
What did you remember about your dad?
Just that he came in.
Okay. You were in the house.
Nothing else.
You were in the house and he came in.
And yeah, that's all I remember.
Where were you at in the house?
Huh?
Where were you at in the house when he came in?
I don't remember.
You might
I just remember
you
him
remember
coming
seeing
in.
him, and you were like,
Evidently, I was happy to see him. I don't know. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
did you have any pets when you were young?
Do you have any what?
Pets, dogs,
Oh, no.
cats.
We weren't allowed to have any in the house. When we had our farm place, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember the kitchen. Off from the kitchen there was a porch,
Sure.
a long porch.
The one that you grew up in, yeah.
Yeah, and it had a lot of windows.
I remember.
And we were allowed to let our dogs come in there and lay on a rug in the wintertime,
Oh, I see.
but no further.
I see. They could just get out of the
And
way.
he was a dog that took care of the cattle and stuff out in the
Yeah,
barn.
that's right. I remember that.
He lived in the barn.
What was that dog's name? Oh,
I don't.
I remember Grandpa calling for that dog.
And the dog would go down and get the cattle, wouldn't he?
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember. I remember that.
Yeah, it was a different life.
Yeah, of course, I remember Grandma had chickens. She probably
Of
always.
course we had chickens.
She always had chickens, right?
Well, that was not half of our living, but that was some of our living because we used to sell the eggs to get groceries.
Yeah. So you'd have and you
She
Grandma.
had a 3 dozen case, and you should put 3 dozen, and then another 3 dozen, 6 dozen eggs, and we'd take it into town, and that would get our bread. And
Were you the one that went to the hen house to collect the eggs?
what I was what?
Did you go to the hen house and collect the
Oh,
eggs?
sure.
I remember doing it myself.
I had to go collect it, and then I had to help wash them and put them in.
Yeah.
Mom washed them and fixed them good. Then by that time we were selling 3 dozen, 4 dozen, 6 dozen eggs, and we had a man that came around and would buy the eggs and get the cream, and we'd get money for it. You know, he'd come around with a truck.
I see.
Do you remember that?
Oh no, but the truck. Well, that's much later because when you were born, they didn't have
No,
they didn't
this
have
guy
automobiles.
this had some kind. Yeah, that's when I was
High schoolers.
like 12 and 13 years old.
Right, because when you were born, they didn't
That's
have cars.
when they had cars by that time.
Yeah, because when you were born, you remember when your dad getting the first car, right?
Well, yeah, the first car was a funny car. It was this little old black thing that had curtains on the side that we'd have
It was a
to
Model T?
snap together.
Model T, Model A, or something.
Model wouldn't have been a T or A. What was it? I don't know. Just a Ford.
Well, the first Fords I think were Model Ts.
Yeah, but it was a Model T then, with curtains on the side.
Yeah.
And, oh, we were so glad to get that instead of having a wagon with horses to go to town.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about going in the winter time to take that wagon, and you guys would be under the blanket with the heated rocks, right?
Yes, and Grandpa would be up there driving those horses. I don't know how he stood it. I suppose he just let the horses go. They knew where to go, because by the time we had my aunt, my mom's sister, and her husband lived about 10 miles from our farm, helping some man on the farm. They were farm helpers, and we would go visit Aunt Florence and Uncle Mac for Thanksgiving or Christmas, or they would come to our house. have to use horses. It was cold.
You didn't have telephone then, did you?
Yes, we had that one telephone.
When you were born, was there telephone, or did they have it?
No, not when I was born.
So they added that because there was no lights, no telephone, no.
No lights anyway. They didn't get lights until after I was in Waterloo going to beauty school.
Really, they had no lights even until you were graduating from high school.